Allô, allô.放着这放的话，这人家也不来这。放外面，放外面，放不要放，一定要外面，举一下，然后不要放这。这边还是坐前面？坐前面，不，坐前面。开始，因为这个是那个后来的那个 panel， 对。好嘞。OK。We need to switch on.
We turn on at the back.
You turn on automatically. Okay. Thank you. So this way will work. So is it possible to connect the computer?
No, we have it at the back.
Okay.
So, yeah, you just have to click and.
Okay. So just to go for.
I'll press on the speaker. Just bring it up.
Okay.
Yes.
你跟他那些就是怎么翻他们放东西。好。
This one.
This one.
Yeah.
So to change the slide.
Yes.
Okay. He can control by himself. The speaker.
I will start the presentation, and then that one they change the slide.
哎，快点，怎么那个PPT 怎么回事？
就这样。
不是，但是要得放在正常的，对。
I want to go with David Hudson. 不错，一会儿您 Q 到李局，他就上台就行了。
对，我一说一下，我就请他上台。
I'll start, and then you press. We have the computer on the back, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. 我再弄一下这个，然后我们给我就是给这个
after
Yeah, but you can do the, yeah, you invite, we are your normal.
Okay.
We have good friends.
Oui. Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Xinfei Gu. I'm from Chinese Academy of Sciences. I'm one of the co-chair of AO GEO. And this afternoon, I'm a moderator with Gilles Ollier from Euro GEO to co-organize this key side event, addressing the climate change issue at all scales. And we will discuss also about how to cooperate between different regions for climate change issue and for other issues. So now the topic of this key side event is delivering on climate change, driving actions at all scales. Firstly, let's welcome Mr. Li Pengde, the China principal, who is also representative of the co-chair of GEO from China, to give us an opening remark. Mr. Li Pengde, welcome.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So welcome to the Delivering on Climate Change, Driving Action at All Scales, the SET event. On behalf of Mr. Huang Wei, the China co-chair, it's my great honor to be invited to give an opening remark on this key SET event. I don't know, have you been in China? In northwest, the high plateau area, the land becoming green and greener because there are more raining than before, because that's one effect of the climate change. So we are living in the Earth, that's only one place for us. So the climate affects everyone, not only the people in Asia Oceanic area, but also in Europe. So GEO and EU GEO and Euro GEO closely work together. It means there are 57 countries will work together here, try to share data, share knowledge, to make effort for the climate change monitoring and prevent natural disasters. Last plenary, all the regional bodies had renamed with GEO, not GEOs. It means GEO is not only the platform, but a mechanism, the friendship and the relationships. So this type of collaboration between Europe, Asia, and the Oceanic area is a good beginning. Today, there are also the people come from America GEO and Africa GEO. Because with the concept of GEO community, we should set up cooperation between global scale, regional scale, and the national one. GEO is not a topic one department can handle. It affects all the departments, all the ministries, from the country to the countryside. That's why from the developing countries, the Europe, you have many experiences we can share. In China, Japan, India, and also these type of countries, there are more and more satellites launched. So more data will be available. So Europe and the West and the East, we work together. There will be more satellites, more data, more platforms. That's why we have this special place try to have common understanding. What's the concept? What's the approach? What's the standards? So I think that's a good beginning for collaboration between regions. And I hope we can extend this type of cooperation further to make more intercontinental platforms to make geo knowledge benefit all our people in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peng De Li. Thank you, Mr. Representative of the co-chair of GEO. Now, I will give the floor to Gilles Ollier, the leader of the Euro GEO, to set the scene for this event. Gilles.
Thank you very much. I guess I can speak from. No. Okay, so yes, this presentation is a presentation, done by me, but also together with Ringfa. So welcome to all people attending. I would like to thank you all for being here. It's a unique opportunity to discuss EuroGeo, AOGEO cooperation. And so I'm very grateful to EuroGeo and AOGEO to be together here to discuss further collaboration. So this side event indeed is a very good opportunity to share information, to exchange information about the two initiatives. Because actually, very often we just ignore what is done miles away, So we really are bringing together knowledge. That's the first objective of this side event. So it's a good opportunity to exchange information in AOGEO and in EuroGeo. And we expect that it will increase mutual awareness between the two initiatives. Now, the event, because I'm supposed to set the scene, is going to be more about what is the role of GEO and our EuroGeo, AOGEO initiative to address, in particular, climate adaptation. GEO is perfectly suited for climate adaptation because we deal with very many different social benefit areas like biodiversity, but also water, etc., agriculture. And so we will have a panel dedicated on this during this session. Now, I would like to come back on the fact that both the ASEAN and Oceanian caucus within GEO countries and the European ones have developed Earth observation capacities that are necessary to adapt to climate change. Both EuroGeo and AOGEO have developed already capacities that are very important for climate adaptation. In Europe, we have the Copernicus program, for instance, but we also, with the climate services, and EuroGeo will build on those services to develop end-user application in this domain. So in the GEO context, we then should explore the possibilities to share those capacities on concrete cases. How can we identify some concrete cases where we can share our know-how? And therefore, a possible outcome of this side event would be to identifying such cases that we could develop further together. Maybe 1, 2, 3 cases, but we really have to be sharp and concentrate on few cases. I think it's what we discussed with Ringfa already several times. And we welcome as well the others GEO regional activities. And I know that there are speakers from the other EuroGeo, the other GEO initiatives in this side event, and we hope we can collaborate with in the domain of climate change adaptation with these other activities around the world. Now, it is always difficult to select priorities for collaboration. But it is our view that to select priorities, we should apply some criteria. And I think the basic criteria in those circumstances are always the same. First of all, how is it high on the political agenda? Because of course, if we have two blocks to collaborate together, which is the ASEAN Oceanian caucus on one hand, and on the other hand, the European caucus, we are not going to work on, you know, not really political big activities. So that's the first criteria in my view. The second criteria is complementarity, because we should select cases where we can apply complementarities. So if, for instance, in Europe we have developed solutions, but if the other part of the world has more developed the acquisition of data, how do we bring that together so that we have, because if there is no complementarity, I think the collaboration is made more complicated. And the last thing, I think the last criteria probably is that we should have existing programs. Because it's very difficult if we don't have existing program on each side to move on to cooperation. And I'm sure that on both initiatives, we have already programmed initiatives. So the three criteria, first one, how it is on the political agenda. It has to be high on the political agenda. Second, complementarity. And third, probably the fact that existing programs are there. So I think there are plenty of examples of cases that we can deal with in this collaboration. For instance, the food and agriculture sector is one, because we have to, in this domain, limiting the emissions in this sector is fundamental for a transition towards a more sustainable future. Then the understanding, limiting, and adapting to ocean acidification is also one example that we can think about, because if you look at it, ocean acidification, we don't have a global system for measuring ocean acidification, which is just a shame. Huh? So this is one possibility. The other thing is that the domain of health, for instance, is very promising, because you know, we face the situation where we have more and more vector-borne disease, and it is very important to think if we can develop systems that can anticipate those diseases. Maybe not 6 months, but 1 month would be already a good thing. So the health sector is very promising and has not been a lot touched right now by the Earth observation community. But for instance, in the European Commission, we have a prize of 5 million euros that we are going to award in 2020, where to a team which is going to be able to demonstrate an early warning system for a vector-borne disease. So I think we can think about it. And then the obvious one is the biodiversity ecosystem part, because the Earth observation has a big role to play. But that's a list which is not exhaustive. Huh? There are plenty of other ideas. But what I mean is that our collaboration, we need to select some of the things. Then I think, so if I recap this, setting of the scene, we are going to have a presentation of our GEO and Erosion next during the event. Then we are going to have a panel of ongoing activities on climate adaptation. And then we are going to have a second panel where we can discuss the future of collaboration between our GEO and Erosion, but also, if possible, with AfriGEO and AmeriGEO. This is most welcome. And the last thing, we will have some closing remarks. So with that, this is what I wanted to let you know. And, but let me say again that we are very pleased as Commission and as our GEO to have all the colleagues here being able to discuss this very important collaboration for the future, because it's the collaboration between the regional activities that are going to make at the end a global Earth observation system of systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you very much. You are just listening to the voice of Europe. Now, so we will have two presentations from AO GEO and from Euro GEO, and then followed by panel discussion led by GEO, and after about the cooperation between the two regions and especially regional cooperation for climate change issue. So first, let's welcome David Hudson, one of the co-chair of the, of AOGO, to give you a brief introduction on AOGO.
Thank you very much, Xingfa. Hello everyone, my name is David Hudson. I'm the Australian co-chair for AOGO, and I'm going to try and give you a 10-minute summary of what AOGO has been doing, and also a bit of a summary of what AOGO has just finished a few hours ago, which was our annual AOGO symposium held over at the Australian National University. So, Asia and Oceania is a very complicated geographic region. We have all geographic land types within our region. We go from the high mountains down to the deepest parts of the ocean. We've got dramatic effects of climate change, and in fact we have some of the largest impacts of natural disasters within our region, and so we're highly exposed. We've got a very large socioeconomic range, so we have some very well-developed countries all the way through to some of the poorest and most exposed countries, and we bring that diversity together within the AOGO community. But we also have some very deteriorating ecosystems. We started in 2017 as AOGEOS, as we were hearing before, the elevation of the regional GEOSs to the regional GEOs. And we started at, I guess, a place of trying to strengthen the cooperation. It started at the system level, but it then very quickly merged into looking at all of these different application areas where we're all collaborating. So we actually have a large number of regional collaboration mechanisms within our region. And so when AOGO started, we were left with the question, what do we do with all these existing mechanisms? And so we tried to bring them all together and bring them under the banner. And so there were several of these. There was the GEOS AP Symposium, which had started back in 2007 and had been very, very well nurtured and maintained by Japan. And so we brought that into becoming the main vehicle for AOGO. So that was recently renamed to the AOGO Symposium, which is how a one-year-old GEO initiative just had its 12th annual meeting. We also have 6 months out of sync from that, a targeted workshop. And that workshop is about bringing in new members to AOGO. It's about capacity building. It's about finding a specific topic and attacking that specific topic. And so we had the first one of those in Deqing, China, and the last one of those we had in Jakarta, where Jakarta and New Zealand joined AOGO. So, yeah, we've gone through the rebrand, and we've also gone through that we started in 2016. This is our structure. So, structured the same as all the other regional GEOs. We report to caucus. We have a governance mechanism under that, which is a coordination board, and then we have task groups. Let me run you through the different components. So we start at caucus. We have a coordination board, which has a distributed secretariat. We have these two meetings, the symposium and the workshop. We've got a bunch of vertical applications, which are our application task groups. And then we have some cross-cutting task groups about data sharing and data platforms. And then we have a co-production, co-design, user engagement cross-cutting group. And so we were going along quite nicely last year with these in existence, and we realized, well, how do we actually start? How do we actually start joining people together? And that's where these integrated priority studies came from. We said it's not going to work if we just work in co-chair countries. We need to go and pick some areas where we all agree are a priority. And so we picked the Mekong River Basin, small island states or the Pacific Islands, and the Himalayan mountains. And so we said, okay, so we've got all these different groups. We need to actually make sure that the regional geo connects with the global geo. So a lot of these connections were already made, but then we went and made sure that all of these were actually connected with their global counterparts in geo. We went, okay, we've connected our task groups to all of the global geo tasks. We now need to connect our tasks to the geo priorities. And so every year at our symposium, we map all of our task groups to the Sustainable Development Goals, Paris, and to Sendai. And so we started with our integrated priority studies. The AO caucus region is in red. Our integrated priority studies is the yellowish line. And we went, there's still 20 plus million square kilometers. I'm not quite sure we're willing to start at that scale. And so where we started was we picked 3 specific sites: the Kanchenjunga landscape, which is a biodiversity hotspot in the Himalayas; the Mekong River Delta, which is a critical food production area of the Mekong; and Samoa, which is a really interesting case study in the middle of the Pacific. And we started with those as our specific pilots where we're going to look at data sharing. We've also gone into those communities and started doing co-production and co-design workshops with those actual communities so that we can serve that new function going from a GEOS to the GEO of actually touching users and informing GEO about user requirements. We've also started to do a few training courses. We did 4 training courses this year across the region. They're very targeted training courses where we'll go into an institution and train an institution. So we're ramping up this activity, but it's been going quite well. So moving on to the cross-cutting side, we, like everyone in GEO, adhere to the data sharing principles, and we think they're absolutely fantastic. We've got a few things we're focusing on. So obviously, analysis-ready data is a very big challenge for all of us. But one thing we have been noticing within Asia Oceania is that a lot of us are beginning to open up our data and noticing that our definition of open data is different. And so we've been going and looking around for global standards on what is open data. And so we have gone and adopted the Creative Commons open licensing framework so that we all know what we mean when we say open, and so that a lawyer knows what we mean when we say open. We've got a whole bunch of data platforms which we work with within our region. And so those different groups have been working together, sharing knowledges. In some cases, we're joining systems together. In others, they're very complementary systems. So first, a couple of name differences. So there are many things which have the same name in the world. We have a DS in Asia Oceania. It's a Japan DS, led out of the University of Tokyo, invented by Professor Toshio Koike about a decade ago. And it is a system which has a supercomputing facility at the University of Tokyo, but it's primarily focused on going into communities and doing this co-production, co-design exercise of saying, what do you actually need? What do you actually want? Bringing all of those requirements into a university setting to get all of the latest Earth observation results. So it's actually something which is less about the technology and more of a human engagement platform. I think a lot of people will have heard of the Open Data Cube. This is very much a technical platform where it's an open source platform which anyone can go and download, and it's spreading quite quickly. And so we've got upwards of 50 countries around the world who are starting to use this, and it's got quite a deep penetration within Asia Oceania. So this is a straight technology platform focused primarily on gridded data. We really would prefer it to be a bit more focused on the in situ side, and that's something we're talking about. So how do we actually know that we've got all of our bases covered? At the start of this, one of our co-chairs went and connected all of our task groups together and tried to give us an interconnected view of how this all fits together in terms of global processes. Some examples of what the task groups do. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you very much. So now, let's welcome Jean Tuzard from Euro GEO to give us a brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simfa. It's my pleasure to present in a few words the Eurogeo initiative. So my name is Jean Dussard. I'm working for the European Commission together with Gilles Ollier and some of my colleagues, Marianne Van Merlo, that will be part of the second panel. So why are we considering that it's the right time to have this discussion today? We think that we are just arriving at the right time. We see that disasters are more and more frequent. We have some estimation in Europe that it can cost up to an average of 12 billion euro a year. We are not talking only about economic disasters. There are human-related disasters. Some of the disasters taking place can trigger issue on migration, that they can shake the supply chain. We see that on the positive side, despite all those disasters becoming more and more frequent, we now have at our disposal in Europe some effective adaptation solutions. They've been spurred by the research and innovation policies. They are ready to be applied. So we think that now it's the right time to find complementarities. We have as well the political agenda that is moving fast in Europe. We're about to have a new commission next month. There will be a new comprehensive European Union adaptation strategy. We see as well that in our next multi-annual financial framework, we will put the necessary resource and investment to reach our ambitious climate objectives. We have created a mission to make sure that the results of the research and investments and innovation, are really ready to be implemented. We see as well from the many stakeholders, some cities across Europe, that there is an increasing interest for climate services. So I was saying that we are now at a key moment of our political agenda. We will have a new commission, most probably starting the 1st of December. And our president-elect, Ursula von der Leyen, has expressed a willingness to develop what she calls the European Green Deal, with the ambition for Europe put very high to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world. Of course, it will require investment. It will require change of practice. So it's a very ambitious proposal, but that at least that set the scene, the way how we want Europe to evolve. So Eurogeo in all of this, of course, it's a small contribution to this endeavor. It's an initiative where we focus essentially on better coordinating, combining, and cooperate. So bringing together the relatively dispersed efforts existing all over Europe in terms of bringing satellite data, getting the data, getting them processed, generate results that are ready to be used. So it's an initiative that was created 2 years ago. Now we are reaching the time where we get the first tangible results. The activities, as you see, they cover different topics, but we want to make sure that the benefits to a wide range of stakeholders. We portrait Eurogeo trying to address two modes of implementation. On one side, we try to leverage all the investment done by the European Union in terms of fixed-term projects. So they can come from our research and innovation program. They can come, of course, of using all the assets of the Copernicus program, other European Union programs, the programs of the European Space Agency, and, of course, the national programs. But on the other side, we have as well a voluntary-based effort, what we call the open innovation partnerships, where we create a number of action groups to further to streamline collaboration, benchmark, combine existing development, to be able to leverage along the value chain all the assets we have in Europe. I was mentioning some example of what we call the fixed-term projects, just to give you a range of the investment that the European Union has already done. So in the last 5 years, we have invested about more than 100 million euros in supporting projects. Many of them will be present here during this week, and you see that they cover all different domains, being observation, being the development of Earth observation applications, even being able to process citizen science or in situ data. This is not the end. We will continue in the next year, and for example, just next week, on the 12th of November, we have a new call that will be open to develop and integrate GEO's climate application to support adaptation and mitigation measures. You see that it covers an important specific challenge, and it finds very well in the context that we will discuss during this side event. The scope of the application we are expecting to see develop and submit. You see this, I will not go through the long list of potential application and areas of research we expect to see coming. And now, before concluding, where are we heading to? We have proposed, and as part of the GEO implementation plan exercise for the period 2020-2022, a new development of the Erosion initiative, still building and networking and promoting further incubation and scaling up of the most promising user-driven application, conduct both at national and at EU level. We want still to keep emphasizing the need to leverage the outputs of our project while keeping the spirit of the voluntary contribution of Erosion. And of course, we need to be able to further connect the pilot application with the different related GEO actions. And this is, I think, the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jean Duzard from the EuroGeo. And now I will pass my microphone to Gilles for the next panel. So before, I would like to mention that this climate change issue key side event was in which the larger proposition of the side event for the LCO, the Space Climate Change Observatory, was included in this side event. And now, so we begin with the first panel. I pass my phone to Gilles.
Thank you very much, Rinfa. So I would like to invite the panel members to be seated here. So all the panel members of this session, please head to the chairs. So, of course, as always, we have to cope with time restriction. So it means that and I think I'm going to sit as well. I'm going to sit, and I hope I don't fall asleep. Hello, everybody. So I suggest we stick to the 5 minutes time limit, because otherwise we are not going to be able to have a discussion. And this is the beauty of the panels in general, is to have a discussion and to exchange with the room, so that we don't have a discussion between the panel members only, but between the panel members and the room. So unfortunately, I will have to say stop at a given point. But, and I would like also to, because I don't have the full bio of everybody, so I would like to ask you to introduce yourself quickly. So with that, we have a panel on climate adaptation, but the use of Earth observation in the context of climate adaptation, and it's more specifically on current experience in the regional initiative. I'm very pleased to have the GEO colleagues, the GEO colleagues, but also the GEO colleagues and the GEO colleagues. So I should right now give the floor to the first speaker, who is Xinghua Liu from the Chinese Academy of Science, and I will leave you introducing you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, the dear chairman and everyone. I'm Xinghua Liu from Chinese Academy of Sciences. I take it great pleasure to present some results from the GEO on behalf of the Remote Center of most of China. In 2012, the Ministry of Science and Technology of China initiated the Global Ecosystem Environmental Observation, a new report from China to provide not only the Earth observation data for sharing, but also information and knowledge for decision making on global change adaptation. Yes. Since yeah, just a few minutes. In order to call for more international cooperation, GEO has been the community activity of GEO work program since 2017, focused on the 3 priorities of GEOs and renamed as the Global Ecosystem and Environmental Observation Analysis Research Corporation. National governments, international organizations, and the public people may use the GEO information technology to support climate change adaptation rather than using as observation data by themselves. Up to last year, there were 18 annual reports and the related data sets have been released to the public. You may download the report and the related data set from the China portals. Today, I officially announce here that there were 4 new annual reports and the related data set are released from now. The 4 annual reports include, the first one is Global Forest Cover and Change. The newest Global Forest Cover map in 2018 with 30-meter spatial resolution and the Global Forest Variation from 2000 is presented. We may find out that there are still existing deforestation areas in the world, while the Eastern Asia, including China, contribute a lot to new forest plantation. Number 1 is trend in global land degradation since 2000. The results show that the global land degradation is generally stable based on the indicator of MPP. However, in South Africa and Northern America, the tropical rainforest area have significant degradation in recent years due to deforestation, forest fire, and drought disaster related to climate change, while China and India lead the global cleaning in recent years. Number 3 is the grain production outlook and the state of food security. The global grain production situation report have been continuously released based on the crop watch system for every year. In this year, the downscaling analysis for Africa countries have been presented. Everyone may do analysis for your own country based on the crop watch system online. Number 4 is the typical severe natural disaster and their impact. There are 4 disasters, including severe global drought, fire, flood, and earthquake from 2018 to 2019 have been assessed. And several typical disasters have been selected as a demonstration case for their impact to ecosystem and environments. Climate change is one of the 3 priorities of GEOs. GEOARC has continuously contributed to global climate change for different aspects. One is to monitor the global greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, as the spatial and the temporal resolution of observation satellite are very low. It is significantly necessary to synergize the Chinese Timesat FY3, GF5, United States, the OCO2, and the Japanese GOSAT, and the European Sentinel-5. Secondly, as an active adaptation measure response to climate change, we should keep our Earth becoming greener and greener, so that the vegetated ecosystem will intake more and more GHG, such as the carbon dioxide. We should pay more attention to the Middle Africa and South American tropical forest area, while China and India is leading the global cleaner. On the set, the sensitive area and such topic are also the impact to the climate change. So we are planning to the annual report for the next year about the global cluster changes. That's all. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for this very interesting presentation on environmental monitoring. I want to move on to the next speaker now, who is Xingyan Li, and who is from the Research Institute of Forest Resource Information Techniques. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm from the Chinese Academy of Forestry, and my name is Xingyan Li. But here, I'm here on behalf of National Remote Sensing Center, the Ministry of Science and Technology of China. So give you this short presentation about Dragon Cooperation, which is the Earth cooperation program between European Space Agency and the Ministry of Science and Technology of China. So, I mean, for Dragon Cooperation, we have a really long history. Since 2003, we have agreements made by the Minister of Ministry of Science and Technology of China and the Director General of European Space Agency. So after that, we start our Dragon. We have, phase by phase. Every phase, for the program is 4 years. We started this program since 2004 or so until now. We more or less have 15 years of cooperation. The purpose of the Dragon program is to promote exploration of, like here mentioned, the Copernicus signals, European Space Agency and Chinese EO data for the science and applications. Also, simulate scientific exchange, publish also papers in the main scientific journal or the proceedings. Also, we provide training for the young scientists. Until now, we trained a lot of people in China. From my point, this is the biggest, largest cooperation program between European Space Agency and China. Here that I mentioned, we had 637 scientists involved in this program from the European countries and China. Also, we have 234 institutes involved in this program. we exploitation a lot of your data. Here I'm making the 30 kind of satellite data for this program. We have several topics here mentioned this 8 topics for this cooperation. Because this is side events, I mean the topic of this side even the climate change. So I have to follow this this topic. I mean for the 8 topics we have one topic is about climate change. We have 4 projects that show you very simple result. Here is about climate change topic, I mean, including 4 projects. One project is about air quality or China. So we just here show you result. I mean, this project's main name of the project is to study of air pollution or China using satellite observations. It focuses on better understanding of the source of air pollution and their spatial and temporal variability. The last time is the data simulation of the emission, including N2 and X using satellite observations, and CTM is a kind of model, I mean, for chemical transport model of China. You are showing in the right figures that indicate that this model it can be used in China also. Also, another product called monitoring greenhouse gas from space. The purpose of this project is harmonize and characterize and improve the retrieval of and for the model used for the CO2 retrieval and to validate it. And in interpret result from TASAT, which is I mean the satellite for the greenhouse gas emission monitoring launched by the Ministry of Science and Technology several years ago. Also, there's a result show us. Another project is about climate in Tibet plateau areas. Also here show us the results because time is so limited. I cannot go to the details. Another topic is about LiDAR observations from ADM, Aerospace and Earth Care, which is the European Space Agency satellite. So I think I have to stop here because time is so limited. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this presentation, highlighting the long cooperation, in particular between ESA and Aerospace Agency. And congratulations, because you probably are the only country able to fly dragons, you know, in space. The thing I would like to give now the floor to Yang-Seung Kim. Sorry for my, yeah. So you are from the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Yang-Seung Kim from Korea. I'd like to introduce some of background of AO/GEO IPS. I'm sorry. It started with the conversation happened at an official lunch meeting in 2017. the GEO week, and we proposed this preliminary concept to the Chinese, Australian, and Japanese colleagues, and they are quite positive at the time. So we reported this concept at the 44th GEO XCOM as part of the program board subgroup report. And we make some progress, and we call for proposals at September, and we have actually 4 proposals up to now. The purpose of the IPS study is to identify and incubate evidence-based tools, services, and solutions which will eventually support decision-making on the environmental challenges. And we are going to apply data from both satellite and in-situ measurement to monitor environmental change over Mekong River Basin, Pacific Island, and Himalaya Mountain. And topics of these studies will include the 3 agenda, Paris Agreement, Sendai Framework, and SDG. As you know, that the issues of the IPS area related to climate changes, but, for example, Mekong River Basin, even the climate regime over there is monsoon, but since we are experiencing global warming, that changes pattern of this monsoon framework. So that sometimes gives the flooding in Mekong River, and that affects the light crop over there, and also that affects the natural ecosystems or flooding issue in Himalaya. As you are well aware of that the global warming in the Himalayas is larger than the other regions. And also that the Pacific Island have issues of the sea level rise issues related to climate change. So I think this is the topics we can work together, particularly over that integrated priority studies. So we need some mechanisms to how to put the European data, including the in-situ data, and how to support in terms of technical training and other technical solutions for these developing countries. I think it's quite covered my talk. I believe this is quite short. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Young-Soon. Grateful to you. You were able to do that on time. I would like now to give the floor to Klaus-Jürgen Schreiber from the German Weather Service for the next speech about what your service is doing in terms of climate adaptation.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the new German GEO principal, and in my ordinary job at the Met Services, I'm responsible for climate monitoring, and I'll just give you a very concrete example what we are doing here with meteorological data, so Earth observation data for the adaptation initiatives in German cities. As all you know, global changes or climate changes are not only on the global scale, they are more and more on the regional and also on the local scales. And on sometimes we wanted to have these changes, and on other times when we set up a lot of building, we produce a urban heat island which is not intended. And so We have running a project to support the municipal planners. It's called ClimPrax. That means Climate and Municipal Practice. The objective is, on one hand, to improve the meteorological basis. On the other hand, to improve transfer of meteorological information to the planning practice. And on the planning practice, they have to take into account all the different aspects and concerns that will be affected there with with their plannings. Oh, sorry, this was too fast. That's right. And overall, there must be an improved integration of these urban climate concerns into the municipal processes. This is a project which is based here on the Met Service, some responsibilities from the federal states and also from the municipal planners. And what I want to say, do not forget the last step. Always take the end users into the discussions from the beginning on. So I want to show you some results. This is the climate, what we are recently more or less here affecting with the today's development, with the today's building in 2 cities here. And you see the number of days where we have experienced tropical nights. Tropical nights means, after our definition, that the minimum temperature is above 20 degrees centigrade. For Southeast Asia or here the Pacific Islands, it may be a ridiculous value, but for Central Europe, it's quite a value that you can suffer in your sleep in the nights. So we want to reduce these things. Yeah, of course. We are not used to these things. We have somewhat another climate. And you see we have here 15, 16 nights per year with this high minimum temperatures. And if we compare this with the same climate, but with the assumption that we have no housing so far, then you see that the number of these tropical nights is between 1 and 5, much less than with these current buildings. And this is what we call the urban heat effect. And when we will have a change in climate, so some more warning, then these values from tomorrow's climate with today's development will nearly doubled within the next 30 years. That means much more heat stress for the people who live there in the cities. And this is the problem what we face with climate change. And so we'll try to reduce these effects of climate change. So we made an analysis in these areas, what we have here investigated, about some cooling effects from urban climate model, not only from the observations. And we have identified some of these areas. We have mapped these. Oh, doesn't work? Okay. We have mapped these areas of cooling effects with the areas of the severe nocturnal heat loads, the tropical nights, and with backward and forward trajectories, the second one. We have identified these areas where we have a flow of cold air into this overheated centers of the city. And this is what I wanted to give to the municipal planners. Be careful with the planning that you do not take any obstacles in these cold air flows, because they should be protected for all the times, so that you have let me say, a sort of some ease climate there and do not suffer so much from this nocturnal heat events. Okay, I think that's all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Klaus Jürgen. Yeah. Now, and in particular, because you described a very specific case which is user-oriented and very practical. I would like to give the floor now to my colleague from the Space Agency, the European Space Agency, Yvan Petiteville, and he's going to also provide some highlight on what ESA is doing on climate adaptation.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. So through a few examples, I will try in less than 1 hour to show you ESA's contribution to regional initiatives in support to adaptation to climate change. First, I would like to start with the Amazon forest. So you can see there. This was an image taken by Sentinel-5P, so Copernicus Sentinel-5P mission, showing the carbon monoxide concentration, and this is to compare with the fires that had been detected during the month of August 2018 using the Sentinel-3 STSR instruments. And now you see 1 year later, you see an increase of the CO concentration over the Amazon forest, and the number of fires detected, Gilles, has been multiplied almost by 4 1 year later. So that was for the Amazon forest. And you see that we got still on the Amazon forest. You can see if we compare the situation of the rainforest in Brazil in '89 with this Landsat 5 image compared to what we observe now with the Sentinel-2, you see dramatic changes in rainforest coverage. This shows you the importance of the data that we get from the Sentinel missions and from the Earth Explorer missions at ESA that really helps to address climate change, excuse me, to address climate change and to take the appropriate action to preserve biodiversity. Changing region now. Oops, sorry. I got some problems with that. So sea level rise. This is from the ESA Climate Change Initiative programs where we are conducting studies over more than 25 essential climate variables. You can see here the global mean sea level trend, and you see 25 years of data from the ERS and VSAT mission and the Sentinel, and completed also with data we got from the Aviso CNES Center and JSON 3. You can see a dramatic acceleration of the sea level rise, which is now almost 5 millimeters per year, while it was a few years ago 3 millimeters per year. So during the last 200 years, sea level rising has affected all the Pacific Island countries, causing a loss of productive lands because of inundations, because of shoreline erosion, because of the groundwater salinization. Most of the responses have been largely uninformed and very often unsuccessful. Now, still, I should follow a course of... So, at the beginning of the year, then we got from a request from our Australian colleague for an increase of the observation over the Pacific Island, and in particular, so with the European Commission, we've changed the plans of observations, and now since the 20th of October, with the 2 Sentinel-2 missions now, we observed more islands in the Pacific, in particular Tuamotu, the Austral Islands, Kiribati, etc. And now I will finish with this still on the Pacific Islands, on the Republic of Palau. So sustainable and ecosystem-based marine mapping is essential for most of the Pacific Island countries that have based their economy on the exploitation of marine resources. So the urgency of the management of coral reef systems and associated coastal environments that are affected, that are threatened by the climate change, really require detailed habitat mapping of and to see what's the current status, and require also a sustained future monitoring to assess the changes over time. And you can see on the right side here you can see the results that have been obtained with the 10-meter resolution Sentinel-2 data here. That have been used for mapping at large scale the most sensible and high-value habitat in these regions. So everything which is related to corals, seagrasses, mangroves. And this is quite important. So through those examples, you've seen some what can be the contribution of satellite data to help various countries in various regions to adapt their responses to climate change. And with this, I have finished my presentation. In time, in less than 1 hour.
Material here for collaboration already ongoing sometime with other regional initiatives. I'm impressed by the fact that you also have ESA products on the Amazon region, which means that there is a big diversity of producing products in this region of the world. And now I would like to give the floor to Laurent Durieux, who is from the French Institute for Development, and is going to present a contribution of France to the Global Earth Observation System of Systems, which is a space climate observatory.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I will correct, I'm working for the IRD, the French National Institute of Research for Sustainable Development. And the project we are presenting here is not only, it's not a French initiative, actually, it's an international initiative from 24 space agencies and 2 UN agencies. It's quite important. France was at the beginning of this story. So please, can you put the next slide? So as we know, science, the international science community has done a great job to define climate change, to explain it, to make people aware of it. And if, based on this awareness, local stakeholders are asking us, what's going to happen in my city in terms of agriculture, in terms of sea level rise, in terms of food production, access to water, all these complex questions. And as we have seen today, there are many entry points to answer these questions. And so these 24 space agencies, together with UNDP and UNOSA, decided to join based on an initiative of the French government, of President Macron, during the One Planet Summit. They decided to join to try to offer a solution to study and monitor the impact of climate change, especially at the local levels, giving access to very high resolution Earth observation data, and also in situ data, and all the different type of models. Basically, the idea is how, from the climate models outputs, you can integrate this estimation of the climate change inside agronomy models, inside hydrological models, and all type of models. So the idea here is to have a one entry pot with 4 pillars. First is transparency on the action, but also on the data that we use in those models and that we provide to the community. The idea also is to facilitate local capacity building on running these models and using this data. Sharing the knowledge, where is the model, how it works, where are the data, what is the quality of this data, all this type of knowledge. And it's a really pragmatic initiative looking at effective application. So basically, the added value compared to existing, so we have seen Copernicus, climate change services. The Chinese presented very impressive new findings on this field. The idea is how we can accelerate joint projects on this issue, and what type of infrastructure we will need to make it happen. The idea is not to build something new, is to build upon existing previous experiences and to emulate the international expertise around this question of climate change impacts mitigations. So in terms of agenda, as I said, it was launched at the One Planet Summit in 2017. In 2019, during the Salon du Bourget, we had the agencies and UN space agencies and UN agencies that signed a declaration, a space climate observation declaration. We had the first steering committee recently in Washington. And please, next slide. And now we are working, we have 2 years to work on a Space Climate Observatory international charter, a little bit like the disaster charter. The idea is how, like on the disaster, how we can mobilize the space agencies to give the necessary information to make this model run, okay? And as you see this model, we have new models all the time, we need new data all the time. It's how we follow this dynamic. So how it works, we have an international steering committee that already met in Washington. We are based together with national space climate observatories. For example, in France, we have all the scientific institutions together with universities that are launching a national space climate observatory to group all the knowledge we have on climate change impact. And we are talking with other countries to organize their own space climate observatory national entity. And we have a general secretary to support this action. So the SCO, as I said, it will work alongside and downstream existing climate change programs. And the idea is to accelerate the ongoing work. Thanks. Next slide. We are actually working on some documents. One is the guidelines for the SCO project and also strategic documents. We want to organize a seminar next year. It will be probably alongside an existing event. We have a web portal that I invite you to look at. It's called spaceclimateobservatory.org. You will see some example of applications. Here you have a picture of the first steering committee. And if you have any question, please, so you have Laurence Monnoyer-Smith, she's advisor on climate and environment at CNES, at the French Space Agency, and Frédéric Bretard, he's the head of the project. If you have any more questions, please send them an email. Thanks a lot.
So, thank you very much. I think in general, you know, in GEO, there are always, worries that, okay, we need more investment, we need to make efforts, etc. So, in a sense, when there is a new initiative like that one popping up, it has to be welcome because, of course, it's part of the overall global system. So I guess in EuroGEO, in AOGEO, in GEO overall, what we expect is probably to connect the SCO initiative at global level because it has a global impact at the end. So thank you very much for that. So now I would like to give the floor, this is my pleasure, to give the floor to Angelica Gutierrez from America GEO. As I said, we welcome very much the cooperation, okay, not only between AOGEO and EuroGEO, but also the cooperation with other regional initiatives. And I'm sure that Angelica has a lot to say about assets on the AmeriGEO side regarding coping with global changes.
Thank you, Gilles. So my name is Angelica Gutierrez. I am from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the United States, and I'm the co-chair of AmeriGEO. So let me see. I'm going to present 4 examples, very specific examples that were set in AmeriGEO to respond to the needs of our community. And when I talk about our community, it's not only the governments, but also the communities that are making decisions in the Americas. The first example is the Geonet cast system. This is a system, a dissemination system that is designed to provide information to a diverse group of communities. At the moment, the majority of products that are disseminated through the system are mainly for hydromet services and related to forecasting meteorology. We started in 2015 with about 30 systems in the region. Today, we have about 89, and our intention is to continue growing the system, not only in the number of antennas implemented in the region, but also adding products that are going to respond to other areas such as ecosystems and agriculture and so forth. So here are the location of the antennas and some potential users. The second example of how AmeriGeo is contributing to climate adaptation is we have many engagements with thematic activities. This is an example with the global sustainability, water sustainability, GeoGLOS, and who is actually working to provide actionable information specifically in the area of stream flow forecasting, but also in the development of hydroinformatic tools. And so we have collaborations with SICA, the System of Integration in Central America, and all the hydromet services in the region. We are also working with Colombia, Peru, and many other organizations that are actually implementing these tools for decision-making. But not only GeoGLOS, we have also collaborations with other geothematic activities such as GeoGLAM, Geodharma, disaster, and so forth. The third activity is related to open data. One of the issues in our region is the fact that many countries didn't have open data policies. So since 2015, we started working with the countries in the ministries. And so in the last 5 years of the existence of AmeriGeo, we have been able to implement open data policies in many countries. For example, Colombia in 2014, Uruguay in 2017, Peru in 2018. Through the AmeriGeo platform, at the beginning of the AmeriGeo platform, we had data from 7 countries. Today, we have data from 19 countries. And not only is the data from the 19 countries, our work has promoted the establishments of open data platforms at the national level that are connected through to our AmeriGeo platform. And finally, AmeriGeo Week. At the beginning of the Regional GEO, I still keep initiative, AmeriGeos, anyhow. We identified many of the gaps, and one of the main gaps was the lack of capacity in our region, capacity in the use of Earth observations. So initially was instituted AmeriGeo Week to provide instruction in the use of Earth observations. AmeriGeo Week has evolved to include now a symposium. This symposium is helping to provide the environment where we are now engaging not only the scientific community, but also the political community in our region. We also use this environment to connect the different projects at the national level that have funding, national funding, with AmeriGeo activities. So it has been an evolution. And what I'm actually showing in this slide is that the number of participants have been growing throughout the years. This was in Costa Rica, where we have 40 institutions participating in one America's Caucus meeting there. And we have about 45 people trained. In 2018, we were in Brazil, and we have 24 institutions, but the number of people trained increased to 65. And we just came back from Lima, Peru, where we have 105 people trained in about 75 institutions. So it is a way for us to maintain the presence of GEO in our region. And every year we move this to different countries. And what is helping us to do is to identify the need for national GEOs. So this is helping not only to engage the principal and the institution of the principal, but also to bring other organizations at the national level into GEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelica. At the end, when I look at your presentation, I think it's a lot, and it's in other regions of the world, but it's a lot about creation of knowledge. And this knowledge, which is at the center of the discussion right now in GEO. And we probably have to discuss further how we take this knowledge, you know, so that it is disseminated in the future. And I hope also that, and I'm sure that there is probably a possibility, although if we develop a EO-GEO, a Euro-GEO, AO-GEO collaboration, I'm sure that there are ways to probably incorporate input from, if you want, but incorporate, you know, contribution or collaboration with AmeriGEO. Thank you very much. So now I would like to give the floor to our last speaker, and it's my pleasure to have also a presentation about, and I think we share that with the AO-GEO colleagues. This is our pleasure to have somebody presenting AfriGEO, and so I need to get my glasses because it's becoming worse and worse. And this is Eric Nyanga, who is going to present AfriGEO. Is it?
Nganga.
No?
Eric Nganga.
Ah, okay. So you have to introduce yourself. Apologize for that.
Afternoon, everyone.
And the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name is Eric Nganga, representing Phoebe Oduo, who could not travel with us today, although she'll be joining us a bit later. And I'll be presenting on behalf of AfriGEO. Initially, I was told it would be 3 minutes. So I think I'll be a bit faster. In terms of regional climate issues, land degradation is one of the main issues that is still affecting Africa. Forest deforestation being the main driver of the degradation in the region. And this is furthermore because of the lack of data, either to monitor or to aid in adaptation planning. So over the time, there have been several activities that have been carried out in the region. And this involved mainly the land cover mapping exercises. These were to drive so many key issues in the region. Ideally, over the time, 9 countries were able to do this under the GEO Inventories project, as you can see in the map. Then there were also national initiatives. For instance, in Kenya, there was the SLIC project recently. And then, as ASEMAD having 20 member states in the region, they were able to do the member country support, carry out this for 4 countries. Then there was the challenge of time series analysis. Then using TimeSync, ASEMAD was able to do time series mapping. In that, this land degradation may be appearing somewhere, and you want to know when did this begin, what is the trend, and that's when TimeSync was carried out for several countries, also in the region. Then there was the Earth observation applications. So the land cover mapping, as I said, was aimed at solving several key issues. Monitoring deforestation. An instance I can give is in Kenya, the Water Towers Agency. Now, through this data, they were able now to monitor the water towers. What is the areas that are being degraded, since this has very many effects, not only upstream, but also downstream. Then there is the agricultural monitoring. Someone talked of GeoGlam. Majority of this data was now at the national level, updated, and they were able now to come up with crop masks. These crop masks are able to now to monitor trends in agriculture from maybe when the season begins for a particular crop. I can use an example of Kenya, such as maize, when the season begins to when the season ends. And from this now you can be able to tell if the trend is affected, that means maybe the production will be less. So how do the countries now then adapt to these changes? Right now, rainfall changes. These will affect now the growth patterns of the main crops. So this was now, they were able to do that. Wealth accounting for valuation of ecosystem services. This was a project done in Rwanda through utilization of the same data. Then there's the national reporting, UNFCCC national reporting by the countries. Now they were able to carry out their national reporting. Then there's the AFR 100 restoration initiatives. This was a global agenda, and in Africa, degradation has been a lot, and you cannot restore where you don't know where the degradation is occurring. So first you have to identify where is the degradation occurring, then what kind of restoration can be done and where. Again, there's the climate vulnerability assessments. This was done in the East African region, and and there were maps that were produced, and this now aided to know which regions or which areas are more vulnerable than others. In terms of challenges, this is still a challenge up to date. The reason there are inadequate data, you find some data is available, but it's not historical or just current data, so there's that challenge. Capacity in terms of skills and resources, sometimes not the lack of resources, but lack of using these resources for geo agenda in some of these countries. Data validation is again an exercise that's still a challenge in some of this in the region. In terms of capacity, there's now the collaboration with other geos. I think this would be one region where they can collaborate. And then I would go to the AfriGeo role, probably in the region. I know there may be more others, but this is just to mention but a few. AfriGeo is trying to carry out coordination of some of these activities in the region. Standardization, in that if not only national level analysis that can be done, in that now this exercise, or if we say like land cover mapping, we can be able to do it at national scale and then expand it to regional level. Because some of these challenges cut across not only one country, but at a whole region. Capacity development, as we talked of it, that is one region, that is one area where AfriGeo is also trying to come on board and help these countries to further improve. And again, an area where collaboration can be done with other AfriGeos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's impressive, but AfriGeo is achieving, and the same invitation applies in the context of a possible collaboration between our GEO and EuroGEO. We should find a way to have a good connection with AfriGeo. Now I would like to invite all the speakers to come back quickly to their chairs. And I'm already ready, because I have only 5-6 minutes to take questions, so please raise your hand if you have a question about this collaboration, about the regional initiative in general. Don't be shy. It's a very informal approach here. So, yes. José Romero from Switzerland. So we need a microphone on the other hand, yeah. I give you mine.
Okay, we don't lose time. Okay, thank you very much. And maybe my question is a question you can answer with no, it doesn't proceed. For adaptation, we don't need only, I would say, geophysical data, but we would need, for being more informative, socioeconomic data. How far is GEO going, the regional initiatives going that way? Because it's the core of the efficiency for adaptation. So socioeconomic data with geophysical data. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. So somebody wants to take that one? Angelica?
In AmeriGeo platform, we actually have right now harvested not only the data that is coming from the countries, includes socioeconomical data, census data. Sometimes you find weird information. So that is being taken into consideration in the AmeriGeos, including data from the World Bank, from GeoSource, from many organizations in the region. So yes, we are aware of that.
Okay, thank you very much, Angelica. I have a question up there, but somebody has to carry the microphone. Ryan, can you do the Thank you, actually. It's a bit...
Yeah. Thank you very much. I am Mangal from Nepal. I have a quick question for Mr. Kim on his presentation on the IPS. And you have mentioned that by selecting 3 sites from the Himalaya, from Mekong, and in the Pacific Samoa, then the basis was the Paris Agreement, Sendai Framework, and SDG. So my question here is that you have put these frameworks equally, citing for finalizing these sites, or only one by one? No, how you have said that you put this Paris Agreement, Sendai Framework, and SDG as a basis to select the 3 sites for the IPS, that is the Kanchenjunga in Nepal, Samoa, and Mekong. So you have taken consideration of these 3 elements equally or one by one to select these sites?
Basically, we want to cover all of 3 issues and UN SDG issues, Paris Agreement, and Sendai Framework. But at the initial stage, we'd like to focus on particular topic. Particularly this session, we are trying to address the issues related to climate changes. So that's I was trying to demonstrate some of the current issues over these 3 areas. And after spending maybe years from now, then we may go search for other regions of this Asia and Oceania.
Thank you very much. I think you can continue in bilateral, probably. I have a last slot for a question. You can be provocative. Question, for instance, why should we have a collaboration between AOGEO and EuroGEO? Another one? Well, you shouldn't be shy. Everything was crystal clear? Yes, no? Okay. So, I would have questions, but I think Ringfa should take the other panel. So I would like to thank you all very much for your contribution. I think it's a very nice building blocks for this contribution. Thank you. And thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. And I would like to inform you, this room is reserved at least a half hour more for our side event. So that's why we have a second panel to discuss how we can do for the regional cooperation issue. So I would like to invite Mr. Zhou Xiang and from Chinese Academy of Sciences, and Mr. Kendro Ando from GMSTEC of Japan, and Marina von Miru from European Commission to join us. And so you can sit as you want. So we have too many places. Seats. Okay, so our second panel is dedicated especially for the discussion how we cooperate together between different regions. So what I suggest that maybe our 3 honorable panelists to give us some your idea about this issue, and then the audience you can ask some questions. So maybe you can be okay. So.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Kentaro Ando from GMSTEC Japan, and I'm one of co-chairs of coordination board of AOGEO. And I'm asked to talk about the in situ data from AOGEO activities. So also would like to show some possibility about the collaboration from the data in AOGEO. So in Asia Oceania, so linking to AOGEO, I think I have many issues, but today I would like to focus 3 issues regarding to the climate change. First one is the CO2 fluxes in land and in coastal region, including forest, rice production areas, mangrove, seagrasses, and coral reef. Asian flux, that is one projected associated with AOGEO, are the main contributors of land CO2 fluxes, and in situ data are used to measure or estimate total CO2 flux from land in combination with satellite-based CO2 measurement. And second one is the flood and drought. And we have the 10th longest river Mekong, which runs from the Tibetan Plateau to tropical regions, Mekong Delta. The river discharge mainly caused by the seasonal rainfall in the river basin. However, it is expected to have significant changes in future due to climate change, as Yonseo Kim mentioned in the former sessions. Asian Water Cycle Initiative, which is one of tasks of AOGEO, national and interinstitutional effort has been made to measure the river conditions, including river discharge for longer time, which is the in situ measurement. Final one is the coastal erosion. These are found in the coastal region in many places, such as Pacific Islands and Mekong Delta. In situ sea level data in the Pacific Island as a main ocean part of AOGEO will be useful to understand the detection and the changes of coastal line from satellite. In Mekong rivers, higher sea level and the lower river discharge in the future in the Mekong River, Mekong Delta will cause more intrusion of seawaters and causes further salt soil and damage to rice production in Delta. So maybe in terms of collaboration between AOGEO and EuroGEO in associated with climate change, I think the Mekong River is one of the target in terms of flood, drought, and impact from sea level rise to the Delta and the river mouth region. And also, as Dr. Kim mentioned, that collaborative use of the AOGEO IPS dataset provided by the expert and space agencies of China, Japan, Korea, and prepared in Open Data Cube by Australia would be good. Yeah, that is my comment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zhou Qiang, what's your opinion?
Shall I introduce myself first?
Okay, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zhou Qiang from Aerospace Information Research Institute, Chinese Academy of Science. I personally am also a member of Coordination Board of AOGEO and acting as one of co-leader of task group on Open Data Cube and processing technology. So I would like to speak more about IPS, that's Integrated Priority Studies. So as you may know, I mean, all the regional GEOs, including AOGEOs and EuroGEOs, has very clear objective and work plan on the, in the coming years about improve the user engagement and also applications. So I think environmental monitoring, forecasting, disaster reduction, all those things are common concerns. And also the involvement of user engagement and multidisciplinary, I think is also a key issue for us to cooperate. So IPS is active approach for us to develop suitable solution for promote EO data application in the regional level. Previously, at the initial stage of AOGEO, previously AOGEOs, we are thinking about to implement GEOs at the regional level by different task group. So we found each task group had a lot of difficult and duplicate work on the data processing and sharing, and also some modeling on applications. So considering the climate change, we think we have a lot of to do for this group because we have, as our colleague Dr. Kim mentioned, mountain issue, Pacific Island, and also SDG on Mekong River Basin. So what we are thinking about is how to utilize the observing resource, maybe the data set, processing technology, also supporting facility to gathering all the resources to make most of use this maybe spatial information service. So I think our French colleague just talked about the Space Climate Observatory. I think we have a similar idea. So capacity development by joint effort. We are thinking about to hold thematic application training course in different countries, which will be with the specifically target for the local user, and also the joint project maybe under the framework of the Horizon and science and technology plan in each country. We can work together for a specific target step by step. So I think for specific speaking for AOGEO and EuroGEO, the IPS will be a good approach. Also, we can find a lot of scientific funding from the mutual cooperation on the mountain issue or island, Pacific Island, and also SDG by utilizing the observation data. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, please, Marianne Van Mierlo. So, please give your idea.
Thank you. So, Marianne Van Mierlo from the European Commission. I work on the EuroGEO initiative in the group of GEO. Yeah, so it's always a bit difficult because I first thought about my intervention here, and then I went to 2 days of AOGEO symposium, and then you have to maybe rethink what you've written down before. But I tell you, this was not the case. In fact, it was even strengthened what I've written down before, because I was expecting the areas we could work on together would be, for instance, on the Mekong River, where it resembles aspects we face with the Danube or Donau River. I was expecting that the issues we face with getting in situ data there would maybe be the same for the AOGEO region. I was expecting that where we think there is a lot of let's say, gain to be gained with interoperability of data, where standardization, yes, please, but we know that it's probably a lot more difficult to change the way people get data than in the way people actually put down or save the data. So we could probably benefit from interoperability. And then the last one, and Sean mentioned it already, with the Green Deal being now sort of our main vehicle as a new commission to be started, this climate issue for us is of course front and center. And you know what, all on those topics I've just mentioned, it turns out that we do have a really good basis for cooperation, and we should really work on that in the future. So yeah, I keep it with this thing. I was just reconfirming what I thought would be the aspects already.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to inform you, during the multiple contact with EuroGEO, we realized that now the regional GEOs becomes active, and a lot of things have been realized with very successful results. And we think so. We are facing to a global challenge, many global challenges: disaster, climate change, sustainable development, etc. So now the question is that how we can cooperate among the global GEO, our regional GEO and the GEOs. And that's why we propose this joint session. And we chose the climate change because it is a really global issue. And it is something that our two GEO and GEOs could do something and has many advantages and many resources. So our three panelists has planned, said their opinion about the cooperation. So now I would like to invite you, the Olympic audience, either you can give us your comments about how we can do, or your questions, and that our panelists will answer you. Please. Okay, please. Could you please introduce yourself as first, please?
Okay, I'm Xian Qianghe from Second Institute of Oceanography of China. I have a comment on, I have heard the AOGEO and EOGEO, but both of them have little talk about the ocean. So I think the ocean may be the interesting topic between the AOGEO and the EuroGEO. Because, for example, for AOGEO, we have a lot of coral reef and also maybe the mangrove in this region, especially in the South Pacific island countries. And for the EuroGEO, we have the polar size and Arctic oceans. There's a rapid warming ocean regions. So maybe I think there's we can do both the AOGEO and EuroGEO can work together to control these two issues. We know the oceans has especially in the coastal regions, has a lot of impact by the human activities, and for example, eutrophications, and also the disaster, also the red tides, and also many ecosystem disaster. So I think because I have here a lot few of the topical in the oceans, so I would just comment.
You are totally right. Thank you very much, because Yvan Petit-Deville from ESA has showed that sea level increase 4.6 millimeter 8 every year. So it's too big. And we have also a task group named Ocean, Island, and the Coast, and we study seriously this issue. Okay, please. Our specialist of the ocean.
Yes, I'm also the oceanographer. So very difficult to find the oceanographer here, in situ oceanographer. Anyway, so I'm working in JAMSTEC, and I'm also the co-lead of one of tasks under the AOGEO, and named the Ocean, Coast, and Islands, and working on. I'm also working on the ocean issues under the AOGEO. And in this topic, for the satellite data, it seems to be that the collection of satellite data seems to be so much easier than the in situ ocean data. So our task in AOGEO is try to develop the inventory of coastal data. So right now, we are collaborating with the several South Asian countries to try to collect the data inventory. So among these, we also noticed that these coastal countries also already collecting the coastal data already. So in particular, in the last AOGEO symposium, I noticed that for example, the Vietnam Institute of Oceanography already collecting the nitrate and phosphate data, which cannot measured by the satellite. So by combining the satellite data and also in situ data, so maybe we can better understand the kind of the impact of Mekong River to the coastal region of Mekong deltas. Such kind of things we can do maybe in future. So similarity to the EuroGEO, maybe the EuroGEO regions they also have many big rivers. And also we can see the impact by river to the ocean. Maybe such kind of things we can be a new project, I think.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry because of the limit of the time. Maybe we can have the last. Okay, it's you. Question, please. Or comment.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Evangelos Gerasopoulos, and I'm the head of the Greek delegation. So I'd like to address the fourth bullet over there, approaches towards future cooperation. And the key word for me is the roadmap. So I'm very happy that we have already identified some specific case studies.
Thank you.
But I think that for the concretization of the cooperation, maybe some new topics should be into the play where the regional GEOs can really co-decide and co-design from scratch some initiative. In this, along this vein, I would like to mention that the Greek Prime Minister a few months ago has proposed to the UN Climate Summit that specific actions should be taken towards assessing the impacts of climate change on cultural heritage. And since this is somehow for Earth observation uncharted waters, there are many challenges arising from this, but on the other hand, there are many probably, since this is a virgin domain, many opportunities. So how would you see that such a topic could be really addressed by initiating cooperation between the regional GEOs?
Thank you very much. Short answer.
Yep, I'll do a short answer, but you know where to find me for the longer answer. No, I really like your idea of the co-design and co-decide. This is really something for all of you who have been following a bit what we do in the European Commission right now with the next framework program for research and innovation. This is in the core of how we are working right now. So I really like that idea. And one of the things we have been talking about over the last couple of days is how to be involved more in each other's big meetings. So I've been here for the Geo Symposium. Singfa has already promised me that he will be there for our next Geo workshop. So this would actually mean that we can make this happen. Maybe start off online, but then finish in this kind of setting. And topics, as far as I'm concerned, are open for discussion. Like every topic is open for discussion in that sense.
Okay, thank you very much. So because the time limit, so I welcome Agil for a short conclusion.
Thank you very much, Ringfa. Actually, on the spot, we have very quickly with Ringfa, we have, identify some very brief conclusions, but that could pave the way for our collaboration. So the first one, as I said in my introduction, setting priorities is not straightforward. But what we've heard is that the general domain of drought and flood is quite central to the discussion that are taking place. And in this context, you can accommodate a lot of activities that are related to water scarcity, for instance, in agriculture, for the agriculture domain. So that is quite a broad domain in a sense. You mentioned the ocean domain, but the coastal area regarding drought and flood is very important as well. So you can also accommodate this domain. So I think, well, it's not, of course, something, a firm conclusion, but I keep in mind that the fact that flood and drought is very important. We face this situation in all continents, that this is something maybe we have to take on board for the future. The other thing, Rinfa, we understood that the mutual or joint use of capacities is very important. But capacities, it's of course satellite missions, and we have on both sides very good capacities. And we have to make an effort to use together those capacities at global level in a better way. So that's the second type of conclusion, and which is quite general for the time being. Now, I have also, somebody said that, I think it's a Japanese colleague, said that in the downstream part of the value chain, everything which is about data exploitation, everything which is around cloud facilities or data cube requires as well a sound collaboration. And I think this is something because otherwise we end up with an endless number of platforms. So I think this is something we have to have in mind as well in our discussion. Another point I think which is quite important is this notion of climate observatory. I think that in the future we will need sort of a climate observatory to tackle the issue of climate change, climate monitoring, and so on and so forth. So in this context, the presentation that was made today about the global, well, I never remembered, the Space Climate Observatory, this is something that can be incorporated in one way or in another. Last, and I would like to end up my short conclusion here, is that the calendar is very important. So it means that somebody said, I think it's Evangelos said, okay, but we have to develop the cooperation in a proper way. To do that, I think we have some dates in mind. First of all, I think what we have to do is to have a group working to define better together what are going to be the next step. So not to define maybe an implementation plan, but something which looks like to this. And so we can have our colleagues in Europe and in the Asia Oceania forum to work together. So we have to do some homework on this. The second thing, I see a good rendezvous in French is the event which is going to take place in China next year about, I don't know how you call it, Earth Observation Data Event or something. Huh? The Data Technology Workshop, yeah. So hosted by China and taking place in Beijing. I think it's going to be a big event, and that's going to be an opportunity to monitor the progress we will have been doing. I don't remember when is that actually? It's in February, so it leaves us a lot of months to work and to deliver. So that's what I have in mind for the time being. So it means that we have to do some work on the planning, and we have to have a rendezvous, which could be the event in China, and we have in Europe in June, in France, we are going to have the Euro GEO workshop, where we have a second milestone. And of course, France is hosting the event. And I think as European, we welcome very much everybody. So, Ringfa, I will leave you the floor for the last say. Huh?
Okay.
Because we are in our GEO place here.
Yeah. So because
so you have to have the last say.
Because Jill only has said all that we would like to say. So just to express our sincere thanks, firstly, to the GEO co-chairs here, Pongdenia is a representative, because we have received many your help, and I would like to thank also GEO Secretariat. He did a good job and big efforts to offer us this key side event, and as you can see that our side event is the longest side event and with the time prolongation. So this is not usual. And because Iran Bedivida is here, so the program board and had given us a big support to create AO GEO and Euro GEO. Without them, we cannot born. And so, finally, I would like to thank you very much for the hosting country. David Jack Hudson is here, Australia, to provide us this wonderful environment for meeting, and to China, Japan, and Korea to provide to assist us for the meeting, and the European Commission and the participating countries. And I don't forget SAO from Geonet, from France, which is one proposing organization for this side event. Thank you very much. And thank you very much because you may be a little tired because our time is too long. I hope that you continue to support AO GEO and Euro GEO, and to support our cooperation and support the climate change study by EO. And I hope you will have a wonderful stay in Canberra and wonderful GEO Plenary and GEO Ministerial Summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.